This is what he told minor victim number 1. And this is why they were all scared to death of doing anything, because he told them harm would come to their families or to them, and he knew everything about everyone. So he said, I own the government, I own the banks, I know people, and I know things about people that can destroy this world.
Well, that was our friend Sofia Smallstorm, and in this one we talk about how child sacrifice has become American foreign policy. More specifically, we talk about the Rothschild's Epstein agenda. Sofia has some insights about Epstein and something called the Jericho Labyrinth, which of course exists at Epstein's Zorro Ranch. Friends, we can't solve all of the problems of the world in one conversation, but we can certainly shine the light of truth on Epstein and Rothschild, which we do in this one. Thanks so much for being here. Before we start, just a quick word about a valued sponsor. We've all seen the headlines about those miracle weight loss shots, but the 2026 data is officially in, and it's a wake-up call. A major analysis revealed that once people stop taking those injections, they regain an average of 60% of the weight within a year. Even worse, most of that gain is pure fat, but the muscle they lost stays gone, leaving them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally older than when they began. That's why I know you're going to be obsessed with today's sponsor, GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of using needles to override your body's system, it uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help your body naturally boost its own hunger control signals. You'll get the same fullness and fewer cravings, but without the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. GLP-1 Elevate supports your goals while protecting your muscle, so you can actually keep the results for good. To celebrate Valentine's Day, get 50% off GLP-1 Elevate at trimwithsgt.com. Every order includes a complete support bundle with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping on subscriptions. Head to trimwithsgt.com right now to claim your 50% discount before it expires. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here on this March 17th broadcast of SGT Report. And happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. I've got Irish blood beating through my veins. Guys, I have a litany of notes in front of me, and this gets a little hard to process because, as I shared with my good friend and researcher, author Sofia Smallstorm before I hit record, I've done so much work in this area of Epstein, Pizzagate, Pedogate going back more than 10 years that it's hard to stitch it all together in one call. So that's not what we're even going to try to do today. But we are going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Epstein emails and the cover-up of those emails, because the Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th, 2025, and the cover-up of that assassination, the Epstein emails and the cover-up of those emails, and now this new war with Iran for Israel is all connected, folks. It's all connected. Those three subjects are interconnected. They're interwoven, and that cannot be denied, no matter how much Donald J. Trump would like to deny that fact. The Epstein emails equal Rothschild. Epstein, and I'll quote him, said, "As you probably know, I represent the Rothschild family," end quote. Epstein equals Rothschild, Rothschild equals Israel, and now we're waging war in Iran for Israel. Meanwhile, Joe Kent, the director of national counterterrorism, has resigned. Quote, "After much reflection, I've decided to resign from my position as director of National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation," etc. You can read it for yourself, folks. Now, by the way, the heat he's taking, here's how you know you're in trouble if you're Donald J. Trump. The heat he's taking for this is mainly from Larry Loomer, Mark Levin, and Ashton Forbes. If those are the only folks still supporting and cheerleading your war in Iran, we're in a lot of trouble. Here's what Candace Owens has to say about this resignation. "Joe Kent is an American hero, patriot, and veteran. Trump is a shameful president. May American troops take his lead and look into conscientious objection to Bibi's red heifer war. Goyim, stand down." This is a woman, guys, who no longer minces words. Here's the problem, though. Donald J. Trump is getting phony, baloney polling information suggesting to him that the majority of Americans support this. Meanwhile, the majority of Americans believe Trump started this war with Iran to cover up the Epstein scandal. Furthermore, in other polls on X, with more than 60,000 X users responding, 81% said they would prefer that Trump waged war against Israel, not Iran. But here's the problem, folks, and we'll hear it from Tucker Carlson himself.
As I said, I flipped to DC 3 times in the last month to try to convince Trump not to do this. It didn't work. It happens. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, boy, this is not going to get better. So then I think I'll fly up again and ask him. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is doing it, so I'm going to try to just declare victory and go home. Like, you killed an 86-year-old cleric. Let's just call that a win and then pull back. And so then, meantime, he got convinced to denounce me. Okay. I don't care. I'm going to fly up anyway and see him, right? Even though he's like denouncing me. So I call over there to see, call someone who knows him. I said, I'm just going to fly up anyway and tell him this because I think it's so important. And the person says, don't bother, because he's being shown polling that this war is like a 90-10 win for him. And I said, I don't know where that polling is coming from. It's like, I guess you can make any kind of poll. And he's watching Fox News, which is telling him the same thing. And he's getting fake polling. I guess they're only polling Sean Hannity's viewers or something. And so I'm not sure that there's a sense, as if this was yesterday, because I was getting so agitated and worried. I don't think that there's a sense that this is unpopular.
Tucker doesn't feel there's a sense that this is unpopular in the White House with the people that have Trump's ear. Guys, why am I playing this? Because here is CNN trumpeting exactly what Tucker just said. This is brand new. Listen to this.
MAGA GOP on the U.S. military action in Iran. Look at this. Nearly 9 in 10, 89% approve of the U.S. military action in Iran. That is the MAGA GOP base. Just 9% disapprove of it. This is tremendously popular among the Republican base. And of course, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, overseeing the effort. It seems to me that a lot of people are taking that into account, including President Donald Trump, who has been smiling an awful lot at Marco Rubio.
I'll pause it there. Ladies and gentlemen, we've jumped the shark. This is a manufactured reality. Sofia Smallstorm's been listening. I want to welcome her to the show. She's a good friend, researcher, the mind behind 9/11 mysteries. She's got a lot to say about Epstein, so do I, and we're going to get into it today. Sofia, how are you?
I'm okay, but I'm in a way dreading, trembling. I mean, how do we connect all of this? Sean, this is so big, so deep, and it has gone on for so long that you cannot speak about it and tie it all up in a big bow in a few minutes,
Yeah, no, it's impossible. And we won't even try to do that. But we'll speak candidly today. And I've got a couple more clips to play. I want to play a clip from Candace specifically because Candace is taking heat for talking about the Chabad sect of Judaism. We'll talk about that in just one second. But I think where we could start is with the elephant in the room, the Zionist elephant in the room. Mark Levin, welcomed, embraced by President Trump when Levin called him our first Jewish president. Levin just tweeted this the other day: there are no innocent Palestinians. So full stop, I think we should start there, Sofia, because we're being told that this war in Iran has 90% support of Trump's base. That is a complete and total lie. And number two, people, MAGA or not, are getting really sick and tired of this country bombing innocent people in the Middle East. And meanwhile, Mark Levin, Trump's biggest supporter, says there are no innocent Palestinians. So reconcile for me, Sofia Smallstorm, Christians who support Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Insurrection Barbie, Larry Loomer, evidently are thrilled with this war. Reconcile. And Mark Levin says there are no innocent Palestinians. Sofia, maybe we should start there.
Well, you know what? You might as well say there are no innocent Americans. Because if you're going to put that broad brush on all kinds of nationalities, ethnicities, you have to paint your own. That's all I have to say. There are so many people in this country who don't agree with what this country does. Look at that Olympic athlete. Trump called him a loser because he said while he was out there at the Olympics, Winter Olympics, he said, just because I represent America doesn't mean I stand for everything that America does. And Trump gives him a big slap. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. And I guess the reason I continue to hit so hard on this entire issue, these three issues, the Epstein emails, Charlie Kirk's assassination cover up, because you got Erica Kirk tied in there, TPUSA, Zionist takeover. And Erica Kirk is fully embraced by the Trump administration. She just got Charlie's seat on some Air Force board, very prestigious position because she's a grieving widow. And then this war with Iran, which is really a war in Iran for Israel. And meanwhile, you have President Trump saying stuff like this, folks. It's beyond the pale. And I want people to put yourselves in the shoes of our allies in the Middle East and of our enemies, China and Russia, when Trump says stuff like this.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation.
Okay. Why am I playing that? Because I guess if I was part of the rah, trust the plan group, I would say, hey, this is our time. We got to flex our muscle because it's us or China, folks, right? I get that. It's us or Russia, folks, right? I get that. But doesn't it all seem like part of the grand chessboard and we're all being whipped up to fight each other, to bring on a global nuclear war? I mean, because it kind of feels like that. And by the way, if Cuba being a weakened nation makes it A-okay to just take it, to just steal it, then what about Haiti? Haiti's a weakened nation. Haiti borders the Dominican Republic. Things probably aren't so great in the Dominican Republic. Maybe we should just take that whole island. Guys, this is a slippery slope into absolute nihilism. Sophia, do I have that wrong, or am I just not seeing our cup as mega full?
Well, Sean, America is becoming a scavenger. The great white shark is the apex predator of the ocean, but sharks are also the ocean scavengers. They will eat everything that needs to be decimated. And this is what Trump is doing. He's acting like a scavenger and he's bragging about it. And he's saying he can do anything he wants. And you can't have a president talking like that to the rest of the world. So I'm just saying, if you're going to call all Palestinians not innocent, then we have to call ourselves not innocent. And we particularly have to do that because of all the layers in the pyramid that look up from the belly of the beast through the throat of this monster that we're going to discuss today into its jaws and are terrified of it and want to save their jobs, want to save their families. We are all victims and we are all responsible until we do what you're doing. We have to start discussing this all over the place and we have to start putting our feet down on it so that it can't keep living.
I'm just really struck by the fact that somebody with as much power and with as large a platform as Mark Levin has, by the way, he's got his own show on Fox News, guys. I think it's on Sunday nights. I mean, what? This guy's got so much freaking power that he got to put his arm around Trump in the Oval Office and basically call Trump our first Jewish president. And this guy has the audacity to tweet that there are no innocent Palestinians. Can you imagine the psychopathy? Can you imagine the sheer criminal psychopathy of somebody that would say that about another group of people? That's an ethnic cleansing statement. That is a genocidal statement. And by the way, when he says no innocent Palestinians, that means even the children should be cleansed from the land. And is that not what we've seen in this genocide in Gaza? It's almost as though, Sophia, that we are living in a dystopic episode of the Black Mirror on Netflix, and somehow there are still Christians, at least people that call them Christians, that back all of this because bless Israel, therefore you too shall be blessed. It's like this prosperity gospel. You mean kill a bunch of little children, steal their land, and then you too shall be blessed? I don't personally think Jesus Christ himself sees it that way, folks. You're going to have to make your own decision. Take it up with your maker. We're going to turn our attention to the Epstein emails. And now when we wade into this part of the briar patch, Sophia, are you comfortable talking about the Shabbat element of the Jewish faith? Where do you want to even start this thing?
I don't want to go into the Jewishness of it, honestly, because we know that's there, and it's there in all of the names, Sean. It's there in the Wexner name. It's there in the Epstein name. It's there in the Rothschild name. It's in all of the names. I want to talk about the way that Jeffrey Epstein, I believe he was conscripted to create an architecture that knitted all of these disparate professional groups and thinkers together so they could work on Rothschild agendas for the world. And underlying that was this very dark world that Epstein inhabited, that he invited these people into. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay, perfect. Now, you did send me an article. In fairness, got to point this
Yes.
out. You sent me this article. So we're going to share this article with the folks here. And then I'm going to play that soundbite from Candace, the article from Gordon Duff, The Brothel That Bombs Tehran, How Child Sacrifice Became American Foreign Policy. Folks, this is what has been revealed in the Epstein emails. And it gets worse. They weren't just brothels. In fact, Sophia, do you know how old the youngest Epstein victim was, as revealed in these emails?
Well, I've heard as young as 8, possibly younger. They could have trafficked infants for all we know. They could have been baby makers, so they could get babies without documentation, without parents. You know, there was a model, Juliette Bryant, who said Epstein had gynecologists on his payroll. And Juliette Bryant woke up with a female gynecologist hovering over her, and Juliette felt, that she says she knew that her eggs had been harvested. So it happens that Israel is conducting major egg and sperm collections. They go to universities and they collect eggs and sperm from the country's most intelligent students, right? And then there's a lot of in vitro experimentation being done in Tel Aviv, I have heard over the years. So here we've got Epstein with his own fantasies about seeding the world with his genetics, and there's a reason for that. And I want to go into the angle that I have uncovered about Epstein that relates to that.
Very good. Okay, let's do that next. By the way, just to sort of answer the question, from the emails I've seen, the youngest victim was still attached to an umbilical cord, which speaks to exactly what Sophia was just saying about women being bred and babies being used within the system, babies that went under the radar, babies that never got birth certificates. Here's Candace Owens and why she refuses to bend the knee to Israel.
There's so much more here that I didn't leave. So much more that I could say, so much more history that I studied. There's a lot behind my refusal, my absolute refusal to bend the knee to Israel, as many American politicians have done. So there's too much that I've learned about their history, about what was done to Christians, which they're alleging now is blood libel. None of that's real. It didn't happen. Well, they're convincing Jewish people, like actually Jewish people, people that practice Judaism as a faith, who are not Frankists, who are brilliant people who could research this and actually tell you what is going on. In fact, I read the books from the Israeli historians, Shlomo Sand being one of them, who has been writing about what is happening. People that have written about the Jewish mystic tradition, like the Christian mystic tradition. Again, not Christian. These people are not Jewish. In my view, they are Satanists and they have infiltrated our faiths. And we have to come together to recognize this. Most people don't know. They think that the nation of Israel was established because of World War II. There was a lot going on leading up to that. Learn about the Damascus affair of 1840. Learn about what happened to Esther Salamisi in Austria in 1880 thereafter. Okay, there were Christians that kept going missing on holidays, and the entire Christian world rose up and began publicizing, trying to point to what they deemed to be a satanic cult.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. Look, not being anti-Semitic, there's not even a morsel of anti-Semitism in this conversation. We're talking about the fake Jews, the Khazars, the people that have hijacked the story and now hide behind it like a shield of impenetrability. Now, Candace continues to tell the truth, and that's why she and Tucker Carlson are now the two most maligned people in politics. But again, this isn't a show about politics, because I no longer believe we can save ourselves with the same mechanisms that got us here. We can't save ourselves from government with more government. And I think our esteemed guest, Sophia, probably agrees with that. Now, the Rothschild agendas for the world, Sophia's words, not mine. I want to talk about that. The Rothschilds being Frankists and Satanists. Again, as I said at the beginning of the show, Rothschild equals Israel. That's why we're having this conversation. Rothschild equals Epstein. Rothschild's agendas for the world and Epstein genetics. We can go in any direction you'd like.
Well, all right, Sean. So Epstein grew up in the Coney Island area of Brooklyn, I learned. And he was kind of a fat little boy. I also learned that at some point he dressed up as a rabbi so that he could touch a little girl privately, let's just say, right? And he gets to be this rather portly, nerdy adolescent, very good at music, very good at math. His father was a groundskeeper for the New York City Parks Department. So that's not an impressive social status. And you know, when you live in Brooklyn, you're very aware of Manhattan. And Manhattan is where all the fancy stuff goes on in New York. It's, you know, Wall Street, then you've got these incredibly lavish hotels like the Plaza. You've got the United Nations there. There's so many different people who come in and out of Manhattan. And Jeffrey Epstein had to have grown up coveting all of that. Now, I'm sorry to bring this up, but it's relevant, I think. There is a woman who was a sculptor, and she was fielded into Epstein's orbit. Her name is Rena. I think it's Rena O. And she says that he brought her in because he pretended he was a patron of the arts. He had a lot of art in his houses, much of which was satanic and nude and focused on, you know, centered on young nubiles. Nubiles was the word that Ghislaine Maxwell used for underage girls. So this sculptress, ambitions of being, you know, in galleries and whatnot. And Epstein always told these people he was going to help them in all different kinds of ways get professionally situated. And she said that Epstein had a very tiny, tiny male organ. She called it Kallman syndrome. But I looked that up. I did a lot of research on it, and that goes hand in hand with very low testosterone and undeveloped. You don't really get beyond pubescence, and I don't think Epstein had that particular condition. But he did have a self-negation and sense of deficiency, deep-seated deficiency, I believe. And that's what made him aspire to becoming very wanted, very powerful, very connected, and to own women. Rena O said that he had a fascination with the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire apparently owned the area which is Israel today, right? So the Ottoman Empire is said, but this is more of a Western fantasy that began in the 17 and 1800s by painters and writers of the age. The Ottoman sultans and beys, as they were called, had harems of women, but they were not the type of harems that the Western world has envisioned. Epstein was very taken with that idea of being the bey or sultan of a harem, and he believed he owned the women that he brought around him. And I've heard from another victim interview who, this woman was Black. She said that all the Black girls and women that Epstein rounded up were used as footstools, Sean. The celebrities and prominent politicians in Epstein made them sit on the floor, and they put their feet on them, and they had to sit there for hours. Now, do you know what an ottoman is in the world of furniture?
Yeah, I do.
It's a little footstool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to own people. He had a couple of books on human slavery that were found, sex manuals on humans owning slaves, sex slaves that were found in his lockers or in the storage areas that he had a cleanup done when the first investigation into him began in 2005. But I think that Epstein had this fantasy that really propelled him straight into Manhattan. He was a schmoozer par excellence. That guy could talk, he could talk his way. You listen to that interview that he did with Steve Bannon, and he's basically skirting everything. He doesn't answer questions directly. He just talks. He could talk, as my mother used to say, the hind leg off a donkey, right? So Epstein was able to talk himself into this job at Dalton, the Dalton Prep School. It's a day school in Manhattan. And at Dalton, he was inappropriate with female students. He dressed in furs with an open shirt, gold chains, showed off his chest hair. And he ends up getting fired because it's said that he was fired for being a poor math instructor, but comments from people who attended Dalton during the time that he taught there suggest that he was fired because of his inappropriate behavior with students. He attended their parties, and he was just, let's say, he was doing what he was later going to be known for. He was warming up to the career that we know him to have had. So anyway, this business of Epstein being brilliant, Epstein was someone who could imitate like a parrot. He could hang around people, listen carefully, and then he could start dropping phrases to amongst other people. He had created a salon culture. And as you mentioned to me before we started recording, this was enabled by his segue into Bear Stearns. A parent of a Dalton student got him the job at Bear Stearns when he was, I believe, only like 23 or 24 years old. I think it was 1976 he got let go from Dalton. And he walked straight into Bear Stearns. He's assistant floor trader. And he ends up impressing the CEO, Alan Greenberg, because of his desire to be rich. His ambition was what got him promoted to limited partner in 4 years.
Can I just interject and say,
yes,
now that's called sheep dipping when somebody is given that kind of pedigree, sort of a false background. I think it's a lot of what we're seeing with Erica Kirk's background. That's why she can't really defend her phony baloney history. The real details, her mother's relationship to the military, Fort Huachuca, her father's relationship to the Israeli military. Now, at least in the case of Epstein, I would call that sheep dipping, to give him the pedigree of being a banker at Bear Stearns when he was not qualified for the position. And it reminds me a little bit of Emmanuel Macron, another Rothschild banker for a brief period of time before given power. And it said that he was not well regarded within that Rothschild bank. They thought, who is this guy? He's an idiot. He doesn't belong here. How'd he get the job? So something very similar, I think, between these two characters, Sophia. I just wanted to interject.
Well, yeah, but we also could ask ourselves, in that world of trading, Wall Street, stock market, brokerages, that's where a lot of very fancy people are clients. And it could be that Epstein's job had very little to do with finance and a lot more to do with networking amongst these people, getting, as you call it, dipped into their world of dark activities, because these people, the richest people in the world who are clients of these brokerages, are already doing things that you and I wouldn't do. That's right? They are, some of them may be satanic, some of them may be very corrupt, some of them may be just interested in making more and more money through illegal means. We don't know. I don't know how Wall Street works, but I have heard from people who have been there that it is very, very, very ugly and dirty. All right. It's not a place, as a lawyer I knew used to say, not a place for women and children. So it could be that Epstein's entire presence at Bear Stearns it could be that Alan Greenberg had something to do with this, was injecting him into this position of being the hub of a pinwheel. That's the analogy I came up with, that in this salon culture that he built later, which was an architectural hub to an architecture, let's just say, to bring disparate areas of society together, the brightest, most innovative people in science, in politics, in entertainment, and politicians, billionaires. Epstein was so slick and skilled that he could get these people together, these super professionals, super politicians, in these salon settings, in these entertainment, relaxation settings. I asked myself, okay, if this guy is such a, cutting edge, brilliant thinker, why is his primary email jevacation@gmail.com? Why do you pick that, right?
Yeah, just to interject a couple of things, there's a few things I've heard specifically about Epstein and his psychopathy. Now, one of those things is that he could turn on a dime. Okay, he could talk to anybody and sound sane, appropriate, and intellectual to some degree. And then he could flip on a dime and become like a demon, a man demon obsessed, like abusing children and then flip right back. So it's a bit of a psychopathy, maybe dual personality type of thing, multiple personalities, MK Ultra. I'm not sure which, but it's also said that he was the brawn of the operation and Ghislaine was the brains. Ghislaine was the madam. Ghislaine was the trafficker. Ghislaine was the groomer of the girls. Ghislaine was the one that facilitated much of that. And Epstein's job was to get the contacts with the rich and powerful and then get them compromised. So that, I think, might be a pretty good description of their tag team relationship. And of course, her father, being Maxwell, well, he was Mossad.
I did a newsletter a few months ago about Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine and Epstein and Maria Farmer. But let's just go back to Leslie Wexner. So if you're going to insert a man into society, let's pretend you are a Rothschild brainstormer, all right? You're connected to the top of the pyramid through people like maybe Greenberg, maybe others on the lower levels of the pyramid who aren't necessarily the world's super elite, but somebody had to spot Epstein and get him situated so that he could impress the uber rich of the world. And in order to own jet planes and lavish properties and islands and ranches, he had to have money. So that money was Les Wexner's money. And that is what I believe happened to the level that I've reached now in my digging into all this, that Les Wexner had to be put into Epstein's life so that Epstein could have access to wads of money and get these properties and surround himself with the aura of being a hedge fund manager for the very rich, while he probably wasn't. He had to have a persona, and the Wexner money paid for that. Okay. And the Wexner industry was retail, Victoria's Secret, modeling, fashion shows, and Ghislaine, with her slickness, her very measured, proper British accent, her ability to gain girls' trust. I mean, she would go into stores and buy stuff and get the sales girls into the Epstein orbit by having them become her friend. And here's the other thing. Juliet Bryant from South Africa said she never saw Epstein do any real work. He just was on the phone. He was on the phone jawing and schmoozing Sean while he was getting massages, multiple quote unquote massages. Every day, Marina Lacerda said that when she went to the Epstein mansion in New York, Epstein had girls coming down the stairs when she got there and coming up the stairs to his room when she left. And there were like 3 every 2 hours. And this went on. Maria Farmer said that she saw a dozen girls a day going in there while she was there doing her front hall, front hall receptionist greeting job or whatever he had her doing while he was making her wait to become a successful artist, which is the same thing he did to Rena O. Rena O. So here we are. Here's a man who is so sex obsessed with juveniles. Maybe this starts in his adolescence with his inadequacy. Girls didn't like him when he was an adolescent. So anyway, he's now exported all of that into his adult life. He's been given this mansion, which was a transfer of property from Les Wexner to him. In Wexner's deposition, Wexner says he sold it for 20 million. He bought it for 13. Now here's another interesting fact that I uncovered. But I have to cover the sale. You don't sell somebody something and call it a transfer. A transfer is for a nominal amount. It's done legally all the time, transferring something to somebody else for $1. And Jeffrey Epstein told Maria Farmer umpteen times that he got all this, Maria, and he would point to the mansion around them and all the art and the giant staircases and ceilings and whatever, and he would say, I got this all for $1, Maria, $1. So Wexner says, no, 20 million. It was not a transfer, not a gift. But I'm going to tell you something. Les Wexner's money funded the look of all of this. And a man who gets this many, quote unquote, massages a day doesn't have time to do anything else. So here he is playing a role. He is drawing people with phone calls. He would put these girls on the phone with celebrities, world leaders, actors, and and he would say things like, oh, I've got a really young Brazilian girl here. I've got a really young European girl here. And I don't know, I'm not a man, but I don't know what it is that prompts a man to want the same, right?
Sorry for the quick break. War with Iran and the closure of the Straits of Hormuz isn't going to help. New numbers out of Washington show inflation is on the rise again. Another threat to you, your savings account, and your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago? How about 5 years ago? How about yesterday? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. Our friends at Noble Gold Investments specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and they'll make it simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. There are no guarantees in any investment decision, so work with a trusted financial advisor. And then visit noblegoldinvestments.com or sgtreportgold.com and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. The link is below.
I don't know what it is that prompts a man to want the same, right?
Well, no, wait, let's stop there because I've thought a lot about this too. There are people in the world that are not rightly wired, men and women alike. So let's talk about that. When you say that, are you referring to what I think you're referring to is what kind of crazy human being, man or woman, would want to order up another person for their own sexual pleasure or depravity, and in some of these cases, murder these children? Now, is that what you're driving at? Because I've often said, you know, a movie I would like to see or a series I would like to see, I would like to create a series on Netflix about a black ops team, former Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Green Berets. These are retired guys, well-heeled, okay? Some billionaire funds them to fly around in private jets and whack these people that go to, say, Thailand to rape children on sex vacations. Okay, that's the show I want to see.
Sean, you know, I've thought about this too, but I've never really attended parties like this. I shouldn't even say I've never really attended. What am I talking about? I've never attended, period. But, you know, when you see the lavish settings of the Zorro Ranch, and I have a lot to say about Zorro Ranch and the island in a minute, and you see the marble, and you see the ornate furniture, and the bathrooms with like a million different bottles of soap and shampoo, and these group showers, these rain showers, and hot tubs and whatnot. I guess when you drink enough, I can see people like Stephen Hawking, people like Bill Gates, people like these big people in the world, and you get them drunk enough at this party and you plop a 15-year-old in their lap and you take a photo. And one person remarked that all of the celebrities, they don't seem to be objecting to their photos being taken. They're smiling, they seem very at ease, but that's probably because they're really drunk or they're high, and you throw a 15-year-old or 14-year-old in their lap and they will smile, you know?
You know, it's interesting. I'm thinking a lot too, because people know I'm private. I don't go to events. I've been invited to a million events, not so much anymore. About the time you say no thank you for the third time, the invites stop coming. But I used to be invited to events all of the time, black tie events, stuff like that. And it just is not my thing. I don't want to rub elbows with people and have the possibility of getting sucked into the vortex of cult of personality. It's just not my thing. And I think what happens, we're kind of seeing it in the MAGA base. And it speaks to human corruption, Sophia. Most people are not wired in any way, shape, or form to be attracted to children. Our impulse is to protect children. But I think when people get corrupted or hang around those who are corrupt, corruption can spread like a cancer. And I wonder, because what we're seeing in the MAGA base right now, we're hearing reports of all of these crazy parties going on at Mar-a-Lago, as all hell is breaking loose around the world, Sophia. At the hands of Donald J. Trump, and his sycophantic supporters continue on with the party as though everything's going great according to plan. So I just wanted to interject that thought. I think it speaks to human corruption, and they exploit it. And that's what the whole Epstein-Maxwell operation is.
Yeah, Sean, and I think copious money really helps. It soothes wounds. It soothes the fear of being in trouble for this. You look around at the marble and you say, wow, and you look around at all the money, at all the lavishness, and you decide that these people are going to protect you and you join their side. That's all that I can really see happening, because at some point, people have to pick a side. Do you want to pick the side of protecting children and being an upright moral human being, or do you want to become distorted in this way?
You just nailed it. How interesting that you just nailed it. Let me show you what I think is the single best example of what you've just described. And knee benders are doing this. They are picking a side. They're picking the side that they think will be victorious, or the more powerful side that they think that will allow them to have the algorithms work in their favor. Insurrection Barbie, Gunther Eagleman, Ashton Forbes. Boy, the list is long. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Larry Loomer. These people have already bent the knee, and they've chosen their side. And in that clip I played of Candace, she refuses to bend the knee, as do I, because I won't bend my knee to evil. All right, so let me show you guys this. In regards to what Sophia just said about picking a side, there are all of these rumors. Bibi Netanyahu is indeed dead. But now today, as we're having this conversation, here's the lunatic U.S. ambassador to Israel, Huckabee, with what is purported to be Bibi Netanyahu claiming to be alive. Now, I want to play this clip for two reasons, because there's much debate about whether Bibi's dead or alive, and to back up what Sophia just said about picking a side. Huckabee clearly picked his side long ago.
Mr. Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
I checked that, and I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to make sure because, you guys get along too well.
I know, and we shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand. But I have to tell you, I'm alive, but I have this card.
Oh.
And, don't read it. So it's a punch card. Mm-hmm. Today I erased 2 names on the punch cards, and you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Your name is on the list of the good guys.
Thank you.
Boy, all right. I'm so glad you said that, Sophia, because I almost didn't play that clip today, and it's very, very important. First of all, if that's a legitimate clip, why are they so at ease about what's going on in the world? Like, what a strange clip. And Netanyahu says regarding his 5 fingers that he and Trump shake hands with 5 fingers each. I mean, it's just very, very bizarre. But let's assume it's a real clip and not AI. How interesting that Huckabee says, I'm so glad I'm not on your punch card. I'm not on your death list. I'm not on the Zionist hit list like Tucker Carlson, Sophia. I've chosen my side, and it's with you, Satan. I mean, honestly, that's how I feel about these two people. Your thoughts?
I was trying to look at that to figure out how is it AI, but
I know it looks legit, and I'm not suggesting it is AI. I'm suggesting it's a very, very weird conversation when Bibi Netanyahu has been now missing for some, what, 8, 9, 10 days after a very serious strike on his house that killed his brother. So very, very weird stuff happening. But the point is that Huckabee picked his side, and he's picked the side of Bibi Netanyahu, a genocidal war maniac, in my opinion. This is my opinion.
Sean, I want to go to Zorro Ranch.
All right, let's go to Zorro Ranch.
All right. So did you know that Zorro Ranch, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's 40 miles from Albuquerque. It's near Santa Fe. And did you know that they buried their trash and they had an incinerator there? And Epstein gave a lot of orders for trash to be buried, including heli trash, Heli. All right. So I understand that if you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't want trash pickup, you would have to dispose of it yourself. But why have a place like that in the middle of nowhere? And why have an island? And when you have these, let's just call it human hunting parties and salons where you bring in people that don't have papers, young people from foreign countries, and you torture them and you do satanic things to them, you're going to ruin your flooring, you're going to ruin your carpets, you're going to ruin your furniture. And you're going to have to bury all this because you cannot have it hauled away. And if you have an island and the island has access by boat and helicopter, and your friend Ghislaine is a helicopter pilot, and you conduct the same kind of hunting games of people on that island into that temple. This came out, the first time around when we were hearing about Jeffrey Epstein, that temple was really weird, and some of these victims tried to swim away from the island. But guess what? Helicopters don't have doors, and you can take a helicopter out over the ocean and you can push bodies out of it. And when you have a 7,500 acre ranch and you have to lease additional 12 to 1,500 acres around it, and you bury bodies on it.
Well, let's play this clip from Fox News. To their credit, at least somebody's telling a little bit of truth regarding all of these horrors.
Investigators are swarming Jeffrey Epstein's notorious New Mexico ranch after an email in the Epstein files claims 2 foreign girls were strangled to death during rough fetish sex. And Epstein ordered the bodies to be buried on the ranch. Like a lot of things in the Epstein files, that report is unconfirmed. But authorities are now searching the property, thousands of acres. The ranch has been a dark mystery for years, and people are finally talking. A New Mexico state rep told the Daily Mail this, quote, "We have people coming forward saying they were drugged, had sex organs and sperm harvested from their bodies, and woke up around medical equipment, not knowing where they were or what happened to them."
All right, I'll pause it there. By the way, these human hunting parties that Sophia has alluded to, that's 100% real. I think it's the Rothschild Black Forest in their estate that has been fingered in some of this. But of course, this is entirely possible at places like the Vanderbilt mansion. Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt. Boy, does this stuff go down the rabbit hole. That was a deep Pizzagate pull I just shared there, Sophia.
Yes, Sean. So the guy who got the email from someone who worked on the Epstein estate and said he had these sex videos that he had on a flash drive and he would take a Bitcoin in exchange. That the person who received the email was Eddie Aragon of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now this guy is a real journalist, owner of the AM/FM Fox News affiliate in Albuquerque, and a former Zorro Ranch employee had contacted him, I believe it was in 2019, about having this incriminating footage of Epstein, not just Epstein, but things going on at the Zorro Ranch property. And apparently, soon after this information was received by Aragon, two men in a truck came at 4:30 in the morning and destroyed his radio installation in Albuquerque. Okay, so he says the FBI did nothing about that, and they did nothing about the fact that he gave them this email as well about this incriminating material stuff going on at Zorro Ranch. But Aragon brought up something that I was trying to research more, and I wonder if you know anything about it. He said, all you have to know, all you have to look up is the Jericho Labyrinth. And the Jericho Labyrinth, have you ever heard this, Sean?
No.
Okay, so the Jericho Labyrinth apparently is there's an artistic symbol that represents it, and it looks like an intertwined flower kind of a thing. But a labyrinth is not the same as a maze. A maze is all kind of convoluted and confusing to go through. But a labyrinth has one path. You go in one way, and you go to the center. And the labyrinth that was part of Greek mythology in Crete had a minotaur, this monster, half man, half bull, at the center that had to be given sacrifices for his relentless hunger. And so with Aragon coming up with this, just look up Jericho Labyrinth, that's all you need to know, how that's associated with Epstein, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Now, if you go to Zorro Ranch, you will see in the aerial footage that there's a helicopter landing pad surrounded by a circular labyrinth, right? A labyrinthine, it looks like a garden or something like that. So if you just look up Zorro Ranch and get a picture of that, we can see this. And I want to just show people aerial view images. There, do you see that?
Yep.
That round thing?
Yep.
That's the helicopter landing pad. And so the Jericho Labyrinth is also kind of like a meditation walk. I've read that it represents life, it represents the underworld, it represents all different kinds of things across all different kinds of cultures. I mean, you find these particular labyrinths in Native American basket designs, Mediterranean Bronze Age art, religious Jewish manuscripts, medieval cathedrals. But if you focus on that, I want to just give you a crazy fiction writer's imaginative what if. All right, so can we focus on the labyrinth again?
Sure.
All right.
By the way, Sophia, they gutted that. The
They gutted
labyrinth,
that.
the helicopter landing pad.
Look at
Look
that.
at that, right?
I know. But so, Sean, if you find another image of it, you can show it. But imagine, I'm just saying what if, all right? And I don't want people to think I'm crazy. But imagine if, there it is, you were a young person being brought to that place, and you were told by these very evil people, oh, well, you know, we have this beautiful little walkway garden thing, and you can go there and you can do a meditation, and we want you to do it. We want you to feel uplifted. And they send you into the middle of this thing, and then they bring a helicopter over you, thudding, and you think that thing is going to land on you, and you have to run away. This would produce all kinds of adrenochrome.
Well, the other thing I would add to that too is that if you were brought there, I don't know if you guys were paying attention on some of the screen shares I was doing there, but somebody zoomed out on this property. It is quite literally in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's nowhere to run. There's nobody to save you. There's nowhere to hide.
I know, and that was the same with the island. And that's why they had to have these properties, because they would take these people, even the models that they lured with the promise of working at Victoria's Secret, they took their passport papers right away, left them without any money, told them everything would be taken care of. But what I'm saying is, I was trying to figure out why they buried their trash. And this whole landing pad thing, what did they use it for besides landing a helicopter? They could have made people scared in the middle of that thing. And the fact that it has all these, sacrificial connections, and apparently there were some archaeologists. There was a Walter Garstang in 1930s, and then another one, Kathleen Kenyon, who excavated at Jericho, and they discovered structures suggesting pagan rituals, including sacrifices and burnt offerings, in the real Jericho, in the Middle East, right? So I have to say that there's something to this Jericho labyrinth, and I don't know enough about it yet. But, Epstein frequently told this young 14-year-old who was Brazilian, Marina Larceda, when she was recruited by another friend of hers to go and give this older guy a massage, and you can get $300. He told Marina Larceda, she was known to us first as minor victim number 1 in the lawsuits. He told her, I own the government, I own the banks, I know people, and I know things about people that can destroy this world. And he told her he was a brain surgeon.
It's so interesting to hear you say that. Say that again. I own the banks. Basically, I own the world. That sounds like Rothschild.
Yeah.
And as you probably know, I represent the Rothschild family. That aptly describes them. By the way, as it relates to this Jericho labyrinth, I'm still not 100% clear on what that is. Let's listen to this clip.
You mentioned, for example, child sacrifices and whatnot, and some folks believe those are conspiracy theories. Are they?
No. Look up Jericho Labyrinth. That's all you need to look at. Look up Jericho Labyrinth. That's all you need to look at.
In the shadowed annals of ancient symbolism, the Jericho Labyrinth emerges as a twisted path of 7 concentric walls. It echoes the biblical siege where Joshua's trumpets felled a fortified city, traditionally a metaphor for spiritual perseverance. Winding inward to enlightenment or divine conquest. In darker cults, it morphs into a ritual arena for sacrifice and power. Devotees traverse its coils, offering blood or lives at each turn to shatter barriers between worlds, invoking forbidden pacts for wealth, influence, or immortality. Whispers claim one such labyrinth crowns Zorro Ranch, Jeffrey Epstein's remote New Mexico estate, where elite shadows allegedly gathered under starless skies. Here the path wasn't for prayer but predation. Victims led through stone spirals, culminating in sacrificial rites to bind secrets and summon dark favors. The walls echoing silent screams as offerings fueled an empire's hidden hungers. Could this possibly be the very ground now scarred by fresh pits? Where the old maze was torn open, perhaps to bury deeper truths forever.
Look up Jericho Labyrinth. That's all you need to look at.
Well, you taught me something new today, Sophia. I did not know about the Jericho Labyrinth. And how horrifying is it to think that Hillary Clinton says she does not know Jeff Epstein, and yet she and Bill seemed eager and, according to files, visited the Zorro Ranch many, many times. I don't know. It feels like an episode of Black Mirror, Sophia.
I'm going to repeat what you asked me to repeat before you played this blood-curdling clip. This is what he told minor victim number 1. And this is why they were all scared to death of doing anything, because he told them harm would come to their families or to them, and he knew everything about everyone. So he said, I own the government, I own the banks, I know people, and I know things about people that can destroy this world.
I got to tell you something. It's really interesting, Sophia. You and I did not know exactly how to tackle this interview. It's way too big a subject for 1 hour. But quite honestly, I think that soundbite and that information you just shared about the Jericho Labyrinth, about the history of this stuff, it helps tie it all together in the minds of the people listening and for myself to understand the historical perspective here. These people are basically Canaanites. They believe in human sacrifice to their gods, Moloch, Baal, fill in the blank, and this is all deadly real. And the one thing I really embrace about the apocalypse, the great unveiling, the removal of the scales from our eyes, is the recognition that this stuff is real. They believe in it, folks, even if you don't, even if you're an atheist and you think this is all nonsense, they believe in it, and they believe they derive power from sacrificing human beings to their gods, blood sacrifices. You know, there's nothing new under the sun, Sophia.
So, Sean, the person in that clip that's interviewing him, the guy with the glasses, so that's Eddie Aragon in the brown shirt with the long hair. And the other guy is another journalist. He's from the Santa Fe New Mexican, which is a daily in New Mexico. Now, I'm going to tell you something else about Santa Fe that I learned from Eddie Aragon. We think New York is a city teeming with importance. Well, so is Santa Fe, apparently. Santa Fe, it's the capital of New Mexico. It's the first European settlement west of the Mississippi, but it was a center, a hub, because all these Los Alamos scientists, which is also in New Mexico, they went into their own research, their transdisciplinary research projects, and they created the Santa Fe Institute, which wasn't far from Epstein's property. And Aragon said in the interview with that bespectacled man from the Santa Fe New Mexican, he said, Santa Fe is as sophisticated and intricate and financially established as a city like New York or London or Hong Kong. It has that level of complexity. They invented the atom bomb just up the road. Trotsky came through here and Lenin. They all knew about Santa Fe. There are so many players, the most powerful people from different countries, all of whom interacted directly with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I'm going to posit that they weren't interacting with Epstein on science because he didn't have time for science. Epstein's role was this darker stuff, and they all interacted with him. And I want to close, that labyrinth thing is wild that you're showing right now. But I want to close, Sean, with something that I learned about Deepak Chopra. Now, I live in San Diego. Deepak Chopra has his institute here, his Center for Well-Being, or whatever he calls it. Deepak Chopra, you've heard of Deepak Chopra?
Yeah, and I know he's in the Epstein files, Sophia.
Yeah, over 3,000 times, right? So Chopra, I read his book, Quantum Healing, which I was really taken with. He was a chief of staff at Boston Regional Medical Center. This was in the 1980s. He had an MD in internal medicine and endocrinology. And he writes this book, Quantum Healing, which was a bestseller. And it described the body's own internal pharmacy that handles and treats all kinds of physical ailments. We make compounds ourselves. So this made me finally realize, oh, we don't have to go to doctors and get drugs. This was my first awakening to this concept. Our body takes care of itself. And that book opened a door for me. It changed my way of thinking. So then I go to this book signing of Deepak Chopra here in Del Mar at Barnes & Noble. And he's written another bestseller, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. And Michael Jackson, who was a friend of his, got Chopra an interview on Oprah, Oprah. That was in the 1990s. And by the end of the week, Chopra sold 400,000 copies of Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. And then he went on to write all kinds of books. I mean, the guy has a long, long list of books, and many have sold, lots and lots of copies. And apparently, he was in Epstein's circle of pals, and there were many emails between them and Chopra, who was by now, Epstein was the one who connected Chopra to the Saudi royals. He got him all these different connections, and that's his function. He was that hub at the pinwheel. He could connect people from different disciplines who otherwise couldn't easily find each other. And if you can picture the Rothschilds looking down on this and nodding, going, yes, 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 Epstein, you connect these people and these people and these people, and you will be the introducer. So I'm going to tell you, I read this essay by Scott Mills on Substack, and I walked around in a daze for an entire day after reading it, all right? Because I read that Deepak He would arrange a 45-minute visit to Epstein's New York mansion in between a lecture and going to the airport. 45 minutes was all he had to spare, and he would write to Epstein and he would sign his emails XOXOXOXO. Why is he sending hugs and kisses to Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, they both said stuff like this to one another, XOXOXO, right? So he has to meet Epstein for 45 minutes. That's all he can spare. And it has to be at that mansion. And you have to fill in the blanks why he's really going to the mansion. But in one email, Sean, I want you to be sitting in your chair as you receive this information.
Okay.
It says, Deepak writes to Jeffrey Epstein, God is a construct. Cute girls are real. That's the spirituality guru. Bestseller writing, God is a construct, cute girls are real.
There it is. All right. Well, look, probably not going to solve all the world's problems today, but we can help improve your situation. At least Sophia can to some degree with Avatar products. You want to talk a little bit before we let you go about your bandana EMF abatement product?
Sean, yeah. I mean, since we're talking about pedophilia and babies and we want to protect children, here you go. I came up with this. If you go to the EMF remediation page, you can see it again and just scroll down a bit. But there she is. That's Yolanda, 3 months old. And she's wrapped in what looks like a bandana, but I designed this to be a conversation piece because on the other side of it is EMF shielding material. And so you can put this over the car seat, stroller, crib, and your baby is going to be protected. It's very, unformed neurology, nervous system. I have also little hats that you can put on babies for their brain, but they're not on my website yet. I haven't finished everything. So anyway, this is a conversation piece. You can go to the park. You can even ground your baby through the groundable version of this. But anyway, it's a way to protect from routers and cell phones. And I make them as bandanas, bandana prints. They're washable and they have EMF protection on the other side. And you can explain, oh, no, my baby doesn't have a bandana over it. This is an EMF shielding blanket. So I've got a lot of little new things like that. There's the bandana for your head. So that is a shielding piece that you can tie instead of wearing a beanie that kind of looks weird, and go down lower and you can see how you fit it right over your head. And then we have the super shielding hoodie, which is a little on the expensive side, but it has 100% shielding silver inside it. And everybody else sells 35 to 50% silver lining. So that's made of very soft cotton. It's dark gray, so it's not going to show dirt, and it will shield you. I think it's the perfect thing to take on an airplane because you can wrap yourself up. All those people with their Wi-Fi devices all around you. Airplanes have massive amounts of wireless radiation that is really harmful. So if you travel with this thing, you can just put it on in airports on the plane as well. And we got all sizes.
That's very cool. And, for the audience, this thing probably would have been quite a bit cheaper back when silver was 30, but silver's about 80 bucks an ounce now. So things are getting more expensive because our dollar is losing purchasing power. Anything else you want to plug before we let you go here?
The
Sophia?
router guards, you can go up a little higher. There, I have a sale going on. So you drop that over your router and you can immediately lower the frequency from your router from the red range, which is hazardous and potentially cancer causing, to orange yellow, which is safer, much, much safer. So I've got, if you buy the $40 purchase, you get 2 at $40, $35, you have to buy 3. And if you buy 4 at $35, you get a free copy of Arthur Furstenberg's Invisible Rainbow book, which is the best book really that I've ever found on EMFs.
Yeah, you know who else plugs that book is my friend Matt Roski from Cultivate Elevate. He loves that book.
It's an amazing book. It's very, very well written. So you get it for free if you buy 4 router guards, and you can give them away to people and put one in your own house, of course, if you aren't on wired internet. But otherwise, I have my usual stuff. DMSO, sulfur. I've done really well with sulfur. There's the grounding version of the bandana. You can literally, I found a mini ground stake. That's that bottle opener looking thing. And you can put a ground cord on your bandana. You can take your baby to the park and you can clip the cord to the bandana thing, as long as your baby has bare feet or something touching the grounding thing. And you can ground your baby for an hour or ground them indoors. So I've been working on this. It's taken a little while to figure it out, but I try to make these things attractive and really specializing now in EMFs as much as I can, EMF protection, because we're entering a point where a lot of people have been exposed over a long time and their bodies are not going to be able to take it so well anymore. I meet people in the gym who tell me that they have tinnitus and the neurologist says he doesn't know how to make it go away. And that's really very possibly cumulative EMFs. And there on the right, you're going to see the organic sulfur. I did very well with that on a show that we did over a year ago. And that has proven to be really helpful for so many people with body flexibility, because sulfur is an essential nutrient. It's been missing from the soil for over 60 years because of the farming processes, along with iodine and magnesium, missing from the soil. So now you have to literally spoon it into your mouth. And once you do, you will see all this positive improvement in digestion, your pain, joint pain, skin health, and then many, many different systems in the body. I send information out with it. And then there's DMSO as well. So if you scroll down, I think DMSO is on that page. No, it's on the body and posture page. So DMSO, oh my God, there it is. It's so cheap, Sean. If you buy 2 bottles from me, they're $10 each.
I'm running low on DMSO, and I use it in conjunction with chlorine dioxide baths. And that was recommended to me by Mark Grennan. He said, you know what? I bet your knees are going to improve if you take chlorine dioxide baths with DMSO. Put the DMSO on your leg, on your knees, sit in the water for 30 minutes, and it'll help improve your situation. Now, what's weird about it, Sophia, is that's 100% true. Every single time I do that, and I probably do it now 4 times a week, and I always feel much, much, much better after the bath for several hours. But then inevitably my situation declines back to where it was. So I do find it, though, to be very, very effective in providing at least limited near-term rapid relief.
Well, you may have a deterioration or degeneration problem that is extremely advanced, but normal problems that start, Sean, you put some DMSO on. And I want to allay people's fears that DMSO is some kind of weird chemical, because I want to tell you that trees have DMSO in them. You want to know why? Because DMSO has a freezing point of 65 Fahrenheit. 65, not 32 like water. And what happens, Sean, is that trees, the DMSO in trees allows them to self-preserve in cold temperatures. And because it's like an antifreeze. No, don't, I'm going to send it to you. Don't buy it. It's fine. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
So anyway, let me continue with this line of thinking. How they get DMSO for human use is they take it, it's a byproduct of the paper pulping industry because it's contained in the lignin, the fiber, the wood fibers of the trees. So it's a natural product that they get by creating paper because it's in the wood. And then they react it with hydrogen peroxide and you get MSM, the sulfur compound that you can take orally. So DMSO, I say do it topically. Any time I have a little twinge or ache, and I've had a serious issue before that it was an abdominal pain. I didn't even know what it was. It was excruciating. It lasted for months. I was terrified to go to a doctor because I thought they would scope me and they would give me terrible, diagnosis of polyps and I'm going to have surgery. And I was so scared. It started with this acute cramp in my lower left side at night. I was reading a book and I actually screamed out loud in the room because I didn't know what the hell stabbed me like that. It was like like a Jeffrey Epstein demon sticking a knife in me. And then for months, 3 months, it hurt in that area. And I thought, oh no, I have something really wrong. Something exploded in me. And then one day I literally smacked myself on the head and I said, what is my problem? I have DMSO. I swabbed someone with a cotton ball. This is my story. And Sean, the thing was fixed.
Between DMSO and chlorine dioxide, I think they're two of the best kept secrets in the alternative health space. By the way, here's the quote regarding DMSO. If I were on a desert island or knew the world was ending and I could only bring a few things with me, one of them would be DMSO, end quote.
Yeah, and it's totally a natural thing. It's a sulfur compound. I call it the parent molecule of MSM. And when it enters your body, so within 5 minutes, DMSO has penetrated your skin and it's charging around in your bloodstream. Within an hour, it has gone through the blood-brain barrier and it is repairing injured neurons in your brain. DMSO has its own agenda. It will be used where it's needed the most. So if you put it on a certain area, and then I've had people tell me, well, I didn't do much. It's in your body. It's doing something. It's not sitting around doing nothing. It's being used because it's sulfur, dimethyl sulfoxide, and it's cheap. And the only drawback is if you put it on thin skin, it tends to burn for a few minutes.
Yep. So the mainstream media will call chlorine dioxide bleach. That Mockingbird mercenary Brandy Zadrozny from NBC quote-unquote news, a real evil woman, she calls it bleach. It's the opposite. And they'll call DMSO a solvent. And I think the truth is what Sofia just conveyed. But it does burn a little bit.
Well, I have found in certain areas it burns. Like one thing I do with it, I run barefoot on the beach a lot. And I'm always stepping on a small rock or doing something weird or coming home with a twinge. I just slather DMSO on my feet. And then what's left over on the cotton ball, I put at the base of my thumbs where I have a little bit of arthritis. I mean, look, I'm in my 60s. I can't avoid some of this. And it never stings my thumbs, but it never stings my feet. But other areas it will sting a little. But here's the thing. If it stings, just take a wet washcloth and wipe it off because it's already gone through your skin within a few minutes.
Sure.
And one of the things I wanted to say about DMSO is, don't forget that you can use it topically and it can go wherever it wants to go. People who used it for TMJ issues in their jaw said that they had cataract improvement, vision improvement, because they put it somewhere on their face and it made its way. It goes where it's needed. This is the beauty of the body. It will use what you give it where it needs that stuff the most.
By the way, DMSO has its own agenda. That's the quote from Sofia Smallstorm. I like that. I like that very much. Sofia, we're running long here, but I think we've covered a lot of great territory. We're not going to solve the problems of the world, but we're going to make people aware of the problems. And from there, hopefully we can find some solutions, which is, I think, getting right with God. As it pertains to what we were talking about and these people, mostly men, admittedly, that go to places like Thailand for sex vacations, there's a special place in hell for these people, especially the ones that target children. For it would be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and cast yourself into the deepest depths of the sea than to hurt one of these little ones that would otherwise believeth in me. All right, so the words of Jesus Christ, we're going to leave it right there today. My guest has been Sofia Smallstorm, the mind behind 9/11 Mysteries. And by the way, Sofia, I didn't even ask you this, and it was on my things to ask today. We'll do it next time. Israel behind 9/11. Israel behind so many of the things that ail us in this world. Our guest has been Sofia Smallstorm. Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you, Sean, and to all the listeners whom I've missed for a while. I always enjoy these shows. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure. Guys, the links are below to Avatar Products, Sofia's website. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you so much. If you're still with us, please spread it far and wide within your sphere of influence on social media. And until next time, you can check us out to get the real news 24/7 at sgtreport.com. May God Bless you and yours. Bye-bye.
Let's go to Agenda 47. I literally figured this out 4 or 5 minutes before I had to go live, which is why I was about 8 minutes later than my normal time. There's no Agenda 47. It is no longer there. Now, I don't know what that means, but it's pretty damning when you have to take down your own words, because your own words are pointing out the hypocrisy of what you're doing.